Minato and Itachi for most of the series were essentially the better version of our two main characters. Minato was the perfect shinobi that everyone aspired Naruto to be. We see this in instances like when Anko tells Hiruzen that she wishes that Minato was still alive to fight Orochimaru. Jiraiya even says that everyone pales in comparison to the fourth Hokage. He's regarded as the perfect shinobi by most who knew him, especially his sensei and student. This is so much so that Jiraiya and Kakashi constantly bring up Minato as a goal while training Naruto. When we finally see a Minato arc in the war, he fully lives up to his reputation. He's incredibly powerful and has a personality that's too pure for this world. Itachi was also a better version of Sasuke. Sasuke's motivation in getting better early on was to surpass and kill Itachi. This gave Itachi a feared status, and once his arc debuted, he lived up to it. He displayed his superiority against someone like Kakashi and showed Sasuke just how much weaker he was than him. After Orochimaru says that he can't defeat him, it solidifies him as the strongest in the series at the time. Later on, when we finally see him fight Sasuke, he shows his true power, and it is incredible for that time in the series. We even learn about the plot twist of him actually being one of the most morally correct people in the show as well. Just like Minato, he doesn't suffer from as many character flaws as his corresponding main character. I believe these two shinobi are actually on the same tier and are relative in strength. If you want an explanation as to why that is, I suggest watching my Ranking the Uchiha and Hokage video. I give more of a general description of their abilities and power there. In this video, I'll be focusing more on the matchup. Just remember that just because I think one beats the other doesn't make them more powerful. Matchups matter, especially if they are relative in power. I haven't actually thought about who would win yet, so let's start talking about the matchup. We're just going to say that this is healthy alive Itachi and Hokage Minato. They know nothing about each other except for that Minato has general knowledge on the Uchiha. First thing to discuss is taijutsu. We all know about how Itachi swapped hands with Casey and Naruto, and people like to say that Naruto was holding back because he was talking to him. That may be true, but yet we see B try to take Itachi's blind side and fail to do so while they are fighting. We also see that Itachi fights along EMS Sasuke, who went on to fight along with Casey and Naruto. Itachi was even able to react to inorganic reanimation better than Sasuke with his Susanoo. Point is that if Itachi is relative to Sasuke and Sasuke is relative to Naruto, and Naruto is relative to the Raikage, who is relative to Minato, then I don't see Minato just kicking Itachi around. Of course, Minato is able to very easily react to A as a Jonin, so is the Raikage really relative to Minato in speed? This is Jonin A, who would go on to become the Raikage later in the war. Once he was Raikage, he didn't have to fight or even deal with the Eight Tails, so I doubt he trained much. I don't think his speed really changed from when he faced Naruto versus when he faced Minato. He simply just had a different title to his name. From what I've laid out here, it seems like Minato is going to force Itachi to show his hand through close quarters combat alone. Minato was able to easily react to A and then made him worry about simply stabbing him from behind. B saved A with his tail, but Minato cut through this tail as easily as Sasuke was able to with his Chidori spear. The tail Sasuke cut off was slightly bigger, but even then this still says a lot. Sasuke's Chidori could draw blood from the Raikage, but Minato's mere kunai may have been able to do the same thing. So based off of this, Minato will pressure Itachi into using jutsu. B was able to anticipate Minato's attacks twice because he picked up on how the Flying Thunder God worked. Itachi is vastly smarter than B, but B may have had intel on how this jutsu works. Even then, Minato will spread out his kunai with jutsu formula on it, and this will catch Itachi's attention. It'll only take Itachi seeing him teleport once to understand what is going on. Minato should eventually get the upper hand, and this will force Itachi to either use his Susanoo ribcage to defend himself, or disengage and use jutsu. So what jutsu could work on Minato? Fire style gets negated by teleportation, and shurikens won't be that useful. They could be used as a get-off-me tactic, but that's it. I'm not sure if genjutsu will be useful here either. I'm of the opinion that generally genjutsu mostly works when one person is vastly more powerful than the other. Genjutsu is kind of inconsistent throughout the series, but I go by this rule for versus battles. For example, Madara paralyzed A, but he never paralyzed Hashirama. The only time Sasuke really used genjutsu was on Naruto was when he stopped the Nine Tails from taking over in early part 2. This is when Sasuke had the biggest positive power gap on Naruto. It's not always consistent though, as Sasuke using genjutsu on Deidara multiple times, despite those two being relative in power. Anyway, who has Itachi defeated with genjutsu and who has Minato resisted? Itachi was able to defeat both Naruto and Orochimaru with base Sharingan genjutsu. Neither looked in his eyes, and yet they still were caught under it. What's even more impressive is that Itachi can cast Tsukiyomi on Sasuke despite Sasuke having a Sharingan himself. Sasuke knew not to look into his eyes and had a Sharingan for extra resistance, and he still fell under it. Minato is better than all of these people I just brought up, and he's even resisted even better, possibly. Obito never put him under genjutsu, but this may have been because Obito was trying to focus on controlling Kurama. This is the only time we see Minato show he can't be put under genjutsu, but I'm still confident in Minato's resistance. He's far better than Orochimaru, even if Orochimaru was defeated by just a base showing on Genjutsu. I think it's close, but with what I said about Genjutsu being a power difference thing, I believe Minato is relative in power enough to resist. We really don't know the true extent of Itachi's Genjutsu though. It's worth saying that a Sage Mode Kabuto was so worried about it, he fought Itachi with his eyes closed, and still fell to Izanami. I don't think Itachi will use Izanami here, as Minato doesn't have a major and noticeable character flaw like Kabuto. I just can't confidently say that Tsukuyomi works here, though, so I'm leaning towards Minato in this area. On the high side of his potential, Itachi wins with Tsukuyomi, though. Moving on from that, let's talk about Amaterasu. A could dodge Sasuke, so Minato could definitely teleport away. I don't see Itachi doing this, as he'll know that he can teleport by now and have gauged his speed as well. He could still perhaps use this to destroy all of Minato's kunai and markers, which would disrupt Minato's strategy. It's probably not the best idea, considering the chakra needed for it. This leaves Susanoo, which is Itachi's best weapon, really. It was fast enough to hit Nagato twice. The first time he took his blind side, and just its skeletal hand was strong enough to cut Nagato's arm off. Nagato realized what was happening, but could not react fast enough to use Almighty Push. On the second occasion, Itachi had a smoke screen and was able to seal Nagato with the Totsuka blade before he could even realize what had happened. Both occasions, Itachi had a little surprise element in his attack, but not completely. This is also Nagato we're talking about. Even the Diva Path could react to a six-tailed Naruto with Almighty Push. If Minato is caught by the Totsuka blade, that would be it. He can't activate any jutsu in it, so he can teleport. We know that Minato can absolutely Matrix A. He waited for A to get as close as possible before teleporting. Reflexes like that are even more impressive, considering he was only using Flying Raiji in level 1 instead of 2. 2 was so fast that Obito can react with Kamui, and we see adult Obito easily react to KCM Naruto and Six Gate Sky, for example. So I may not have concrete evidence, but I still think that Minato can react to the Totsuka blade. He was able to Matrix A with level 1 Flying Raijin, so level 2 could be used if absolutely necessary. I do believe that this is a losing engagement for Minato currently, though. We can't expect him to dodge it every time, but he has a way to respond to this. Kabuto's Sage Mode was useful for dodging Susanoo, since it allows you to sense danger beforehand, and we know that Minato is a perfect Sage. When I say perfect Sage, I mean he can turn on Sage Mode at the same speed that Gaara can make a sand wall. The faster he activates it, the faster he loses it, though. By the time Madara kicked him, Minato had already lost it. He even says that he needs more time to prepare it than he has at the moment. So can he create the time needed to prepare it here? He can summon Bunta, who can briefly occupy Itachi's time like Orochimaru's Hydra transformation did. We really don't know if this can buy Minato enough time to sustain Sage Mode for long, though. So really, this is another area like Genjutsu where I have to make a guesstimation on. In my opinion, I'm leaning towards Minato being able to outlast Susanoo. He has better endurance, and if he can Matrix A with level 1, I think he can survive with level 2 if he keeps his distance. Once Itachi's chakra runs out, he'll lose to Minato in close quarters combat and be defeated with the Rasengan. I will say though that his Tsukuyomi and his Totsuka blade has an unknown potential. At its absolute max potential, both of those could defeat Minato, but I see that as unrealistic. What he can do realistically is not quite enough to beat Minato, but he can push Minato very hard. I have to give the nod to Minato for the win because we know more of what he's capable of. I'm not going to strongly disagree with you if you pick Itachi though. So my answer is Minato wins on very hard difficulty and simply has to wait for Itachi to run out of chakra. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. Comment something if you have something to say, and thank y'all for watching, and I guess I'll see y'all next time.